Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. Yesterday we used 我挥一挥衣袖，不带走一片云彩 from a poem, and that poem is a milestone in Chinese poetry history because it's one of the best known and using one of the first to use contemporary Chinese expressions. And so today I take on an ambitious project to share with you the full text of the poem. And probably we definitely don't have time to go into details of each character, how that makes sense. But as before, what I did of this language translation, and by translating, placing side by side of English and Chinese, and then you can probably see how Chinese works to make meaning in full sentences. And this is poetry. This is not regular Chinese speaking. So take it at only, to enjoy the language and the rich expressions of Chinese poetry. Okay, the title of the poem, and you can see it's 再别康桥 Cam 桥 bridge. Okay, so it's 再别 is farewell, saying goodbye to Cambridge, and 再 means again. So I try to put it in the same order of Chinese. I use re, means again, a little bit odd, but so farewell again to Cambridge. 轻轻的我走了，正如我轻轻的来，我轻轻的招手。See, repeat it 3 times. 作别西天的云彩。Again, 云彩 we talked about it, Chinese cloud expression. 那河畔的金柳是夕阳中的新娘，波光里的艳影在我心头荡漾。So a little bit of rhyme, but not strictly rhymed. So that's kind of freedom. And this is more like a poetry in the sense of not the rhyming pattern, but the way it observe and express how internal feeling, try to externalize it, right? So 轻轻的 repeat it 3 times in 3 rows gently. I translate it as gently. 我走了, I left. 了 is okay, it's a way of expression like something is done. It's done deal. It's already executed, so to speak. So 我走了 means I already finished the leaving, the departure action. 正如我轻轻的来. Okay, 正如我 just like and so the same gently, and like I wanted to translate it as I can, but English I can have other meanings, so I translate as I show up. So I show up here gently, just like I left gently. Okay, so this set the tone of the poem. It's ever so lightly, this poet. 然后我轻轻的招手, I wave my hand. So this time is a 招手, is wave the hand, kind of like this, right? Chinese wave hand like this. I mean, in other cultures too, gently. And this is, hand waving is a common goodbye gesture, right? So that's universal, saying goodbye to the sunset cloud, 西天的云彩. So the cloud so this is a sunset time of the day, and so the cloud in the west side of the sky are going to have that kind of sunset glow, right? The east, the poet didn't pay attention, but it's the west, the sun. And 那河畔的金柳. Okay, this all of a sudden gives you this glittering, almost like a visual sense, because willow as a plant, okay, in Chinese, the plant of willow have a certain sadness, but it also have a certain femininity because it's a long string of leaves. and they can, swing in the wind in a certain way. So it's kind of romanticized as well. So it's, if you see the plant used in a poem, it's kind of loaded with some emotion, and gilded 金柳 because it's in the sunset, right? So the willow tree got this gold color tone all over it at the river bank, and use a comparison as you see the bride, compare it to a bride. So bride probably is the best looking day of a girl in her lifetime. And so it's like highly costumed, highly finished, and glowing. There is no glowing in this. 夕阳中的新娘 simply said like a bride at sunset, but I reason it, throw in for Western readers to connect the sentence, so to speak. So that willow glowed just like a bride in the sunset, and you can kind of picture the wedding pictures of the bride in sunset. So that's kind of how beautiful that is. And then its sensual reflections, 艳影. Okay, 艳 is like a colorfully, almost like provocatively attractive. Sometimes Chinese, especially poem, when probably at the beginning of Chinese, it didn't have that connotation, but as more like a poet or language users express it in such certain way, and they kind of forms a habit, a trend, and then that character carries this meaning, right? So I translate as essential, because yes, you can see the color, the tone, and the willow is kind of a curvy plant, and reflections. Okay, 影 is the reflections in the water. 波光里的. So I didn't do original like a word by word translation, but try to make sense, because this is a willow tree by the bank, right? So it's the reflections in the water in that river, rippled through my heart. 在我心头荡漾. 心头 is the end of my heart, so to speak. 荡漾, I translate it as a ripple. So that's the reflections, right? The rippling of the water are as if like causing some waves in my heart, right? Now, well, I guess in Western poem, that expression is sort of common as well. 软泥上的青荇. Well, I have to check out this word, but it's 青荇. Okay, 油油的在水里招摇. 在康河的柔波里，我甘愿做一条水草。软泥上的青荇. The soft mud is 软泥. And okay, this is a common Chinese and English difference, because you see the 软泥 is used afterwards. 青荇 is the main thing, and the 青荇, okay, 青荇 is green grass. 青 is green. Okay, I simplified it. 青 is not exactly green, but okay, green grass. And then the definition or the further description of that location of the green grass, right? It's used often after to define it, because that just makes sense, right? The green grass is the main thing, and then you describe where its location. But in Chinese, oftentimes we keep the main concept at the very end of the unit of expression. So 青荇 is actually coming after, and if this is a great descriptor, and you can see this contemporary Chinese, we start to add this connector word over there to mean this is the descriptor of 青荇. So 软泥上的. Okay, of course, when we read it, we don't emphasize the connector, we lighten it. 软泥上的 is a light tone. 青荇. 然后油油的, same thing, it is descriptor. This, like, make it obvious, it's an adjective, right? 油油的在水里招摇. So 招摇 is this swaying motion in water. So it's a water underground, I guess, on the soft mud, swayed in the water. And the 油油 that translate as vibrantly, because originally it means oily. It simply means, okay, water plant in water, coloring will intensify, right? So if you look at something in water, oftentimes that's a highly more saturated color. So that gives you the sense of it looks more vibrant. In even it's a seagrass, it looks, intensely green. So I use vibrantly here. In the gentle waves of Cambridge River. So again, 在康河的柔波里. So here the positioning also flips, 柔波, gentle waves. So here I use gentle again to correspond to the beginning of gently. I left. So here is the gentle. Even if at the beginning of Chinese use 轻轻的, it shows the motion of your action is lightly done. So that's a gentle sense. And here is 柔波, it's soft. So, I have the liberty to translate. So in a gentle waves is 柔波, okay. 在康河的, instead I move it to the end to describe, because this is 康河的柔波. So in English we have an off, right? Off something. This is the descriptor, again, just like on something. So the descriptor positioned after the main thing. So the gentle waves is the main thing. And in Chinese, we use the kind of corresponding to off. And we switch the position to make the descriptor in front of the main noun here. Okay, 我甘愿, I would rather be a ribbon, 一条水草, because okay, Chinese have the habit of using the unit of measurement in front of the noun and give you a visual sense of the thing. So even if it's a measurement, like a one strand of seagrass, and you can kind of visually see that that's a long strand of grass. I beautify it, I use a ribbon, so same thing, that's long strap of things. And 在余荫下的一潭 ，OK， 那余荫下的一潭不是清泉，是天上虹，揉碎在浮草间，为浮藻间沉淀着彩虹似的梦。Okay, so this becomes even more dreamy. Before was describing what he saw, right? And now even the pond, the little pond in the shade of the elm, so another type of tree. So the pond in the shade. So again, 一潭 is the pond. In English, we have the main thing come out first, right? And then in the shade of is describing that afterwards. The Chinese have to use the afterwards thing, descriptor position in the front. So same pattern, now you get it, right? 在那余荫下的一潭, okay, we're talking about a pond. And then the describing of the pond is it's not a spring, like a water from the ground, water gushing out. The pond didn't came from the water. It looks like the rainbow in the sky. Okay, so this is purely imagination. And 揉碎在浮藻间. So it was talking about the pond. So picture the pond in a sunset view, right? Reflecting the sky colors and the sunset colors. And then there are some 浮藻, the floating algae over there scattered under the water, right? And then it looks like 揉碎, it's some poetic expression, like normally Chinese wouldn't imagine to use the 揉碎 here. But I spread it, like 揉 is the action of mushing something, like break something down, but with your hand, kind of gently break it down. Or like you're working with a dough, we use a 揉面. So you're working on something with your hand, and I simply translate as mashed, kind of like a mashed potato. So that kind of broken down, but entangled at the same time, and then scattered. So the pond is not like just one flat surface. Sometimes this algae will break the pattern, the reflections over there. So that's the sense. And then 沉淀着. So 沉淀 means keep accumulating something, right? 彩虹似的梦. So again, call back to the rainbow of the sky, because this looks like a dream to the poet's eyes, even if it's just a pond. So you can see the beautification and the personal emotion projected onto the objects of the grass or the pond, like describe them, tied it with rainbow, with dream, right? And okay, so then, the wandering mind of the poet start to go with the dream concept. So thinking about the dream, okay, so he's talking about 寻梦成一只长蒿. Okay, I probably should mark where I read it. 撑一只长蒿，像青草更青处，满宿，满载一船星辉，在星辉里放歌。但我不能放歌，悄悄是别离的笙箫。Okay, rhyme here, right? 夏虫也为我沉默，沉默是今晚的康桥. So you kind of capture one concept from the previous stanza, previous line, and use it on the second one. So I guess that's kind of showing the wandering mind of one concept after another concept and keep going to new ideas. But the whole emotion is tied with the farewell. So 寻梦, a question mark. Are you seeking dream right now? So dream seeking. And then I pushed with the long pole. So here, okay, Chinese, sometimes we don't voice out explicitly the subject matter. So here is, of course, the poet himself, but he didn't use 我 in there, but instead started from the action word 撑, so push, 一只, one. So again, Chinese like to add this unit of measurement in there, and to give, because different type of unit measurements will have different shapes and sense of the spatial sense to it. So 支, we often use 一支笔, a pen. So you kind of can visualize a 支 is a skinny long string of things. And here 长蒿 is a pole. So a pole to push to the bottom of the river, right? So I pushed, and then going upstream, 慢速. Well, I didn't really translate the sense of 慢, because 慢 means like there's no time pressure, there's no exact destination either. So you just go casually, leisurely upstream to somewhere, kind of in a dreamy way. So that's the concept of 慢. It's like overspilling, like slowly overflowing. So this is kind of 慢 concept. And 速 means going upstream. 像青草的更清楚. So you see green grass, right? 更清楚, 更清楚, in a greener of the green grass. So that means in the deep, more cluster of the seagrass, right? Into, so to speak, kind of a picture kelp forest. So kind of on that boat, pushed by the pole, the boat will casually go into the deep of more of the seagrass area. So that's why it's getting greener. Okay, over here, the next line, instead of rainbow, here probably the nightfall, and then start to see the sky. So there is this timing change in the poem, and the poem just casually grab a star image, mix that into the poem, carrying a boatful of star brilliance. So now it's like pushing the boat into the grass, and nightfall, the star shows. And the poet feels like it's almost like a boatful or star brilliance that he is carrying with him. Just right now, you can picture Disney movie kind of a visual effect of that sparkly star, the poem, kind of a profile silhouette on the picture of that boat full of star brilliance. And then this is his personal expression. He wants to sing freely in that splendor of stardust, right? But he said he caught himself before he do that. He couldn't sing it loud because he's leaving here, being quiet. So the loud and quiet opposite contrast was the farewell flute. He used 别离的笙箫. Okay, this time English and Chinese coincide, I mean, in sync with their positioning. 别离的 is farewell. You see 别 and 别, and we throw 离 means departure, separation. So same thing, we just say it a different way. 别离的 means farewell. And 笙箫is the type of woodwind instrument in China, commonly used in kind of a ceremony. And probably sometimes can make it sound sad and melancholy, which is kind of in tune with a kind of farewell melancholy over there, right? So he used 别离的笙箫. So I translated just easily as farewell flute. It's a type of flute. It's a woodwind. It's not exactly flute. It's different from the Western flute. But you get it. It's kind of instrument that makes the sound kind of, being departure. And 悄悄是这个别离的笙箫是 okay, 悄悄 I translated being quiet. So that's the music. So actually there was no sound. But he's probably hearing the kind of silence, the quietness as a music of, farewell music in his ears. And here he even draw the summer bugs into his poem, like even summer bugs are not singing, are keeping it quiet for me, because silence is the theme tonight. He comes into 沉默. So this is a kind of bigger word with more solemn sense, kind of weighing down. So I use silence reigned over Cambridge tonight. That's his personal feeling. Like probably other people are having a party, but he's going to leave. So this is a farewell for him. So he feels like this. It gets so quiet. It's internal emotion projected to the environment, right? And okay, so this is the ending. This is the quote I use. 悄悄的我来了，正如我悄悄的来。Sorry, 我走了. Okay, so this is a similar pattern at the very beginning. This is a callback, but instead of 轻轻的, which is gently, I translated, I use 悄悄的 because the last sentence of that is silence. So I have to quote back to the nearby line, the previous row, which is silently, okay, left. And then just like how silently I show up. And then 我挥挥衣袖. This is what we learned yesterday. I made one wave of the sleeve. So instead of saying 挥挥手臂, normally that's how you say goodbye, right? Or 挥挥手, or 挥一挥手臂, even bigger motion. But this time he's using 衣袖. So very indirect, very subtle. Like, of course, the arm is inside the sleeve, but he's not referring to any body part of himself, kind of detachment happening over there, right? So instead of saying arms waving, he's waving the sleeve and without taking a sheet of the cloud. 不带走一片云彩. So that becomes kind of his subjective, romanticized saying of, I go without a trace. Like nobody even noticed. And I'm not taking anything with me, not even the cloud. I live here. I came here traceless. I left traceless as well. So this sense of he's not really making much impact over here, and he's not going to take anything with him. But of course, he takes the whole, the ambience of Cambridge, which is a learning place, probably the best mind in Europe. At that time, the young men gather over there to learn, pretty ambitious, aggressive people over there, right? I'm trying to do good to the world, probably. He's one of them. And it's just the beginning of a new China, that after the ruling of thousands of years of continuation of dynasties after dynasties, and finally they have a different haircut, different way of thinking, and he is saying goodbye to this Western epitome of Western civilization, Cambridge, and he's saying, okay, I'm departing silently, quietly, gently. Okay, so that's the whole poem. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you follow through. Appreciate your time. And well, it's getting really long, but I hope to do justice to this important milestone contemporary Chinese poem. So I'm going to read it, the whole poem. And I'm going to point this so you know where I am. 轻轻的我走了，正如我轻轻的来，我轻轻的招手，作别西天的云彩。那河畔的金柳是夕阳中的新娘，波光里的艳影在我心头荡漾。软泥上的青荇油油的在水里招摇，在康河的柔波里，我甘愿做一条水草。那余荫下的一潭，不是天上 ，no， 不是清泉，是天上虹，揉碎在浮藻间，沉淀着彩虹似的梦。寻梦，撑一只长蒿，向青草更青簇，青草更青处漫溯，满载一船星辉，在星辉里放歌。但我不能放歌，悄悄是别离的笙箫。夏虫也为我沉默，沉默是今晚的康桥。悄悄的，我走了，正如我悄悄的来。我挥一挥衣袖，不带走一片云彩。All right, that's the full episode. Appreciate your time. And I hope through this contemporary Chinese poem, you kind of have a sense of the beauty that can be captured in this language. And somebody who's very, who's educated in the Western system, but still keep the Chinese culture, came up with this piece to express how his personal feeling at the moment. All right, cash into the currency of thinking by one word a day with Sophie. See you another day.